Hey there, I am Tabitha Westbrook, and I am the founder and CEO of The Journey in the Process. And I want to welcome you to our newest series where we are helping you get to know each one of our therapists. We are super blessed here at The Journey in the Process to have the most amazing therapists, the best trained trauma therapists and biblical counselors that I think you will find anywhere. But you don't know them well. We wanted to do this series to help you get to know each one of the clinicians at The Journey in the Process. So you're going to get to know a little bit about each person and a little bit about how they do what they do, and even a couple personal details about their life. I can't wait for you to hear it. I hope that you truly enjoy it. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria Ellis, and we are going to get started.
Welcome back to The Journey in the Process. My name is Victoria Ellis, and today I have the privilege of sitting down with Norma, and I'm excited to introduce her to you and for you to get to know her a little bit during these questions. What originally drew you to the field of counseling?
Probably like most therapists would answer is my own trauma history. A lot of therapists have their own trauma history. And so the same for me. I just always knew that God would redeem my story somehow. And so when counseling became an opportunity, I was like, well, I guess this is the direction that God has for me so that he can redeem my history. So I don't really have a defining moment, I guess, if you will, for like, oh, I'm going to be a therapist. It was more of a journey getting here.
Was there a moment when things clicked for you and you were like, okay, I'm where I need to be? This feels good. This feels right.
I guess in terms of that, it would be when I met Tabitha. I was looking for my internship site and I saw her speaking at a Call to Peace retreat. And I didn't even know anything about Call to Peace at the time. Never heard of Tabitha either. And so I was on my last little bit of school getting ready to do my internship. And I met Tabitha and I was like, that's where I need to be. So I guess other than that, that's kind of a defining moment for where I was going to be.
What is your favorite thing, or what do you love the most about the work that you do?
Bringing creativity into especially EMDR and just using creative means to help heal from the trauma. One of my favorite things to do with creative EMDR especially is, well, two things. I love a good trauma egg and I love using mind mapping. Mind mapping just helps people to see what it is that's causing whatever they're struggling with. It helps us get to the root of a symptom. So that's one of the most fun things that I like to use is mind mapping. And then the other is a trauma egg where we just fill up your egg with trauma and really look at what is your trauma still causing you to do? What do we need to clear up that you no longer want to have? Those are my two favorite things that I love to use.
I know that for you, art therapy is a huge part of how you interact with emotions and story, people's experiences. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's been like to sit down with someone and introduce art into how they process their story?
Well, it's less sticky, if you will, especially for people who don't really know what their emotions are and they're not used to them. Using creative means is safer, a more gentle approach that allows space for you to just kind of be where you are and really explore what is it that I'm experiencing? What is it that I'm feeling? What do I do with it? I don't even know what it is. How am I supposed to know what to do with it? And so it's really a kind of a safer, gentler approach to figuring out what your emotions are trying to tell you and what you need. So that's the main thing that I've seen is just a gentler approach to helping people recognize their emotions, understand them, and then kind of figure out what they can do with them.
One of the things that I've seen a lot in your approach is a very open hand to what does our system actually need for us to be heard and be seen. And then from that point on, find a way to translate. Would that fit well with how you do that?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong way to do creativity. So your creativity is based on you as an individual. And so there's really no right or wrong way. And when you apply color to an emotion that you're noticing, it's going to be different than somebody else. Sometimes they're similar, but when you think in terms of your creativity and how you express anything really, but especially emotions, it's going to be individualized. It's going to be different. There's no right or wrong way to do therapy. And so it's a way to meet you where you are and then figure out why you're stuck if you're stuck and where you want to go from here. It's really an exploratory kind of approach that's softer and gentler, especially when you're worried about doing it right or wrong, because there's no right or wrong way. There's no pass or fail. So you're just trying to figure out why you're feeling the way you're feeling and what do you do about it?
Yeah. Is there a favorite story that you have or a favorite experience that you've had in the counseling chair that you feel like shows how you show up as the therapist?
I don't know if there's been a favorite. What I really love is seeing people who have moved from where they were to where they want to be. The best way I can describe it is clearing up their foods, storage and stuff, helping them figure out why they're doing what they're doing, where it's coming from, why it's there, and helping them to do life differently now because they don't need what they needed when they were younger. So seeing my clients see their progress, I'm like, oh, that's where I was. And I can see now how I'm going to impact my future generations.
Yeah.
So that's probably the coolest thing I've seen.
That is a good moment.
Yeah.
Speaking of progress and specialization, how we do what we do, when you think of what you specialize in, what are your areas that you're like, this is Norma. This is what I'm good at. This is who I love helping.
Probably other than using color would be using guided visual. I love it when I can help someone, especially using scripture. When we use scripture to visualize what is God wanting you to see, how do you want to see and experience Him in a different way? And so using guided visual is one of my favorite things to do also. Even just reading scripture and having clients visualize, like Psalm 23, for example, have them visualize what Psalm 23 is saying and to put themselves in that scripture so they can actually experience God in a personal and different way than we think about Him just through words. I love doing that. It's awesome.
What's one thing that you wish people understood about trauma and about the healing process?
One thing I'd wish people would understand about trauma and the healing process, other than it's a journey and a process, which is very cliche and cheesy, but that's okay. It really is a journey, right? Everything that you go through takes you somewhere else. And whatever you go through impacts other people. And there is a life journey that we all go through, and we're intertwined with other people. And so I guess a takeaway would be we need other people to heal from what we've been through, even though that trauma has been caused by somebody else, by other people. We still need people to heal. It's really, really difficult to do that on your own. And some people don't have people. And so I know I've had some clients that don't have other people. I'm their person that helps them on their journey to healing. And so if I can be that person, then I want to make sure I'm not traumatizing them more. I tend to do that more exploratory. Let's figure out where you've been, who you've become out of that, and where do you want to go? Like how would healing look like for you? I really do count it an honor to walk with people on their healing journey because it is an honor. I hold that dear. We need people. Even though people have hurt us, we still need people to heal. And if you can have at least one person, even if you have to pay for that person to be a part of your journey, then have a person. Find a person to help you heal from what you've been through.
I was watching a video, and one of the therapists in the video talked about how grief demands a witness. It's not enough to just know something happened. It has to be witnessed with someone. And so much of what trauma is the aloneness of I
Yeah.
went through something and I went through it alone. So much healing comes from not being alone anymore, which for some people, that very concept, the idea that I don't have to be alone in something, is almost unimaginable, so foreign, but it is so powerful.
One of my favorite depictions of that is from the movie Inside Out, where, which I refer all the time, where sadness is sitting with Bing Bong, the imaginary character, that's been forgotten. And all she does is sit with him. And he feels better after just a few minutes. So it's tying that back to emotions and exploring what ours is. How do you adjust your relationship with your emotions now that you're an adult and you're not in the trauma that you were before, hopefully? And so adjusting that relationship so that sadness is not the enemy, right?
Mhm.
Sadness is there for a reason. Grief is there for a reason. So sometimes just sitting with people and their grief and sadness is what they need.
That's really well put. Also, fantastic movie. I think that movie does so much groundwork, especially for somebody who's never been able to explore the internal world. Speaking of integration and how people work, at the Journey in the Process, we have a huge focus on the embodied experience of healing. How do you integrate the mind, the body, and the soul in your counseling?
Well, I do that creatively
Yeah.
because I like to access all those parts. We tend to come in thinking a certain way, coming into therapy thinking a certain way, believing certain things about ourselves, which is usually negative because of what we've been through. And so, really, through creative exploration and using different means to get there, to explore that, we just look at all of it. Like, what are you thinking? How do you perceive yourself in the world and God and relationships? What you think about those things? And then how are those felt? How does that impact you on a soul level, and especially with relationships? So it's really through exploration, just through creative means and just sitting there with them. One of my favorite questions to ask clients is, what are you noticing? Or what are you noticing in your body?
Mhm.
Sometimes that can go sideways. Most of the time it doesn't, but they're like, oh, I haven't really done that before. If we're used to or really good at avoiding our emotions because that's what we learned, then we're not going to be aware of them. So we don't necessarily realize the impact that has on our soul either. So until we are in a safe enough place to explore.
Sometimes when I have a client, they are completely shut down. Like being in a body, being in their story has become so painful that their body has decided that you don't need to feel this anymore.
Mhm.
Or your mind has decided, I don't want to associate with these feelings anymore. What is the impact that you've seen that have on a person when they distance themselves from their body or their mind or their soul? What is it like for you to sit with them while they re-engage that?
We take it slow.
Mm.
First of all, we go as slow as they need to go because I can only help them go as fast as their nervous system will allow. And so if they are shut down, then we stay in the shutdown and gently, especially through creative exploration, we can explore what it's like to be shut down. What does it actually look like in your body and your mind and your soul to be shut down? So all we're doing is exploring. We're not trying to do something about it. As we take that approach, then their nervous system is like, oh, I can come out a little bit. It's a little bit safer, right? I don't need to be so dissociative or shut down right now in this moment. And so giving them little glimmers of safety, because that's the goal, is for helping clients feel safe in their bodies. So really just finding those little glimmers of safety. We take as long as we need to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't take as long as you think it would.
One thing that I noticed with you and the way you approach therapy is there's so much that's meeting your client where they're at and being present with them as they start to thaw, because I think with trauma, there's a freezing almost where it's like, I'm shutting down because it's not safe to move. A theme that I see is you coming in saying, it's okay. It's okay that you're where you're at. I will sit with you right here as we figure out how to help you describe or say or feel what you need to feel. You do it with such warmth that there genuinely is no feeling of pressure or impatience. You really do find the person in whatever stage they're in worthy of being present with, which I think is very beautiful.
Thank you. I do try to do that. Sometimes I have to push, and I do try to be gentle. In fact, one of my sayings that I like to use when I need to be gentle is, I have a mug that shows. So I say that. Is that working for you? Because when we're shut down, because we've needed to be to survive, we need to look at, how is that working for you now? It's worked for you before. It worked for you in certain situations. In the therapy room, if your goal is to process and make sense of what you've been through, and all you're doing is shutting down, how is that working for you? Shutting down's not working for you. But first, we have to figure out why you feel so unsafe all the time. That's your default mode. So let's figure out that first, explore that, and then figure out how something else can work for you.
I love that. What modalities or methods do you use in therapy? So we talked about art therapy, we talked about mind mapping, things like that. Are there other modalities that you tend to default to?
EMDR is pretty much my mode of therapy. My approach with EMDR encompasses CBT and DPT, because you have to look at what you're thinking about and how you're thinking about things, and then what emotions are coming up because of that. EMDR wraps all that together. So those are my three, or four, I guess 4 default modes. I don't have to do creative, but when someone comes in and says, I'm not creative or I'm not an artist, well, like I've said before, and I've told Tabitha, everyone can art. Not everyone's Monet, but everyone can art. Everyone can create something. How are we going to do that to help you process and heal from what you've been through?
You mentioned that one of the ways that you help people process is like through scripture. A lot of our clients who come in tend to have a history of spiritual abuse or spiritual trauma. What is it like for you being a therapist with different people groups and different beliefs and different value systems?
Meeting them where they are, for them to help me understand why they believe what they believe, how they got there, and how it's working for them. Are they holding on to their beliefs that are theirs? Is it coming from family of origin? Is it coming from an abusive marriage? Why do you believe what you believe right now? And where did that come from? And so it's really just exploration. I've had clients who are really angry at God and they don't like him very much. And then where do you want to go from here?
Is there anything that you've learned about the intersection of faith and trauma that surprised you?
Maybe something that surprised me or is surprising is how it is misused so much to maintain control over another person. That's surprising. But then it's also not surprising because it's kind of been going on for forever anyway. I guess the use of it to keep someone under control, that was surprising, but not really. Maybe the frequency of it, like how much it's actually out there, is surprising.
There was a statement made by someone who was specializing in abuse and the different forms. And when he first started, the question he asked is, are there people being abused where this is being used to abuse them? And then by the end of 2 years, the question was, is there anyone who has not been? Is there anyone where this has not been weaponized against them? And there are many people who haven't gone through that experience, but I think it's very sobering and a call to stillness in a way, to be like, yeah, this is something that needs so much gentleness because so many people have been so constricted. Ironically, free will is one of those sacred things that God acts, and yet people have used God to strip free will so frequently.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that. Who hasn't been?
What would you say if you met somebody who's on the fence of starting therapy?
Well, that depends on why they're on the fence. I would try to understand why they're on the fence. Tell me why you're on the fence. What are your fears? What are your fears for changing? Because you're going to change just naturally. So I would just try to, even the first phone call, like even before even start therapy, like, tell me why you're on the fence. Help me understand why you're there. And we would go from there. So it would depend.
Yeah. Your focus is so much on learning and seeing the person and exploring who they are and finding ways of helping them express that. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you would answer that question with a question.
I would also encourage them to try it. If you're on the fence, I mean, calling and like seeking therapy is already, you're kind of leaning towards it anyway. So why don't we meet and try it? And if you really hate it, then let's talk about why you hate it after the first session.
Sometimes the thing that we hate that does not feel comfortable feels uncomfortable because it's different than the muck we've been stuck in.
Yeah. And we just don't know what it's going to be like. If you're unsure, well, let's just try it and see what happens. And then we'll go from there.
I like how you said you're going to change anyway. One thing that I sometimes think about for people who are scared of change is there's sometimes this nihilistic view of I can't change, or that I'm almost destined to become my worst self. And I like the hope in your statement. Like you're going to change anyway, and you can choose how it goes.
Well, and you're going to change naturally just by being in connection with another person who's helping you just walk the journey that you've been in. So it's just going to change you. Not necessarily going to make it better or worse. It's going to be different, right? Change is not necessarily better or worse. Change is different. What's going to be different? You're going to be different, right? Just naturally because you're with another person talking about hard things, going to change you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's well put. What does your ideal self-care day look like?
In my craft room. Create my craft room creating. That's my ideal self-care day. Being in my craft room, just crafting, creating, just whatever. Or sometimes just cleaning it, organizing it. That would probably be my ideal.
Last question. Is there anything else you would love potential clients to know about you?
One thing to kind of piggyback on what we've been talking about is if you are feeling hopeless, I would encourage you to find at least one person that can hold hope for you until you can hold it yourself. Again, I count it an honor to be able to do that for people. And so if you come in hopeless or not as hopeful as you wish you were, then find someone who can help hold that for you until you can hold it for yourself.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Once again, this is Norma DeGesso. you have watched this and you're like, Norma seems like a good fit for me, then please reach out to us at The Journey and the Process. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
I hope you enjoyed that interview and I hope that it helped you get to know our therapists a little bit better. If you feel like this therapist is the right fit for you, please reach out to www.thejourneyandtheprocess.com and we'll have that linked below. And you can get started on your healing journey today. Thank you again for taking the time to get to know our team. We hope that it has blessed you and we'll see you again soon.